When the Miller family moved into their new house, they felt like the luckiest people alive. Large rooms, a beautifully furnished kitchen, and for the first time ever, each kid would have their own bedroom. The parents, Sarah and Dan, couldn't stop smiling. Their two teenage sons, Jake and Ethan, were already fighting over who got the bigger room. Those were the happy days. Unfortunately, they didn't last long. One afternoon, Sarah and Dan needed to run some errands. Should the boys come too? A quick glance into the living room answered that question. Jake and Ethan were sprawled across the couch, controllers in hand, completely lost in their video games. "Let them enjoy themselves," Sarah whispered. The parents grabbed their coats and closed the door behind them. They never could have guessed that among all the emotions their sons would feel that day, enjoyment wouldn't be one of them. The second that door clicked shut, the brothers went wild. Controllers hit the floor. They chased each other through the living room, shoving, laughing, tugging at each other's shirts the way only brothers do. Pure chaos, pure fun. Until Ethan shoved Jake a little too hard. Jake stumbled backward. His hands shot out, grabbing the first thing they touched, the shelves of the living room bookcase. Both brothers froze. That bookcase was the pride of the living room. Solid wood, filled with books the family had collected for years. It pulled the entire room together. But what happened next made a broken bookcase sound like a blessing. The shelf Jake grabbed didn't snap. It shifted. Both brothers screamed as the entire bookcase began to move, not falling toward them, but splitting apart down the middle, like a door swinging open. "Did we break it?" Ethan whispered. They hadn't. The bookcase was perfectly intact. The books hadn't moved an inch, but behind it, where a solid wall should have been, there was nothing. Just a dark, empty space breathing cold air into the living room. The brothers stood frozen. Neither spoke. The silence was deafening. Now, if you're enjoying this story, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and smash the like button so you never miss stories like this one. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what these boys found next. Jake was the first to move. Being the older brother, he felt responsible. He also felt something else. Curiosity. He ran to his room and came back gripping a flashlight. "You coming?" he asked Ethan. Ethan shook his head. Then, after a deep breath, he followed his brother inside. One step in, and they both knew something was wrong. The flashlight swept across bare, unpainted walls. It looked like a small, forgotten room. Two more steps, and they spotted something that made their stomachs drop. A narrow, spiral staircase leading down into total darkness. The excitement they had felt moments ago was gone. In its place sat a quiet, creeping dread. Neither brother had ever heard about this staircase. Did their parents know it existed? Against every instinct screaming at them to turn back, curiosity won. They always say curiosity killed the cat. In this case, it nearly broke two teenagers. They crept down the stairs, each step groaning under their weight. At the bottom, Jake raised the flashlight and both brothers gasped. They were standing in a small, windowless room. No doors. No light switches. No ventilation. Just four walls and a floor covered with scattered objects that made their skin crawl. In the center of the room sat an old wooden box, sealed with a heavy padlock. Against the far wall lay a stained mattress. Beside it, a rusty key. And surrounding the mattress, dolls. Old, cracked, painted dolls with hollow eyes staring in every direction. The more the flashlight moved, the more dolls appeared. 5, 10, dozens. Jake's hand was shaking so badly the light danced across the walls. Then Ethan stopped talking entirely. He didn't scream. He didn't gasp. He simply raised his finger and pointed at something on the mattress. A banana. A fresh banana, barely browned. It couldn't have been there more than a few hours. That meant whoever left it had been in this room today, and they might still be nearby. The brothers looked at each other, and for the first time, real fear set in. But it was what sat next to the banana that shattered any remaining sense of safety. A candy wrapper, crumpled, colorful, unmistakable. It was from their Halloween stash, the same candy sitting in Ethan's bedroom upstairs. Someone had gone into their room, taken their candy, carried it down here, and eaten it without anyone in the family noticing. That was enough. The brothers bolted up the stairs, tripping over each other, hearts pounding so loud they could hear them in their ears. Jake grabbed the phone with trembling hands and called his parents. His voice came out in broken whispers. "There's a room under the house. Someone's been living there." Sarah and Dan rushed home. When they saw the open bookcase, the color drained from their faces. They went down. They saw the mattress, the dolls, the banana, the candy wrapper, and the locked box. Dan unlocked it with the rusty key. Whatever was inside, they never shared publicly. But it unsettled them enough to immediately call the police. While waiting for officers to arrive, the family did something that would change everything. They took photos and posted them online, desperate for answers. Was this normal in old houses? Had anyone experienced something similar? The internet exploded. Within hours, the post went viral. Thousands of comments poured in. Some people were horrified. Others called it fake, a stunt for attention. But the most chilling responses came from people asking one simple question. What if someone is living in my house right now and I don't even know it? The police arrived and conducted a full investigation. They swept the hidden room, dusted for prints, and searched every corner of the house. They found no one, but the evidence was undeniable. Someone had been living there. Jake later shared one final update before the family deleted everything and disappeared from the internet entirely. The police told us the person had been living there temporarily, he wrote. He would come in for periods of time, then leave for a while. There were no other entrances to the passage, which means he was accessing it through my parents' bedroom. The walls were incredibly soundproof. That's how we never heard a thing. He paused before adding the part that haunted readers most. We were cleared to move back in. Obviously, we didn't stay. My parents went back inside one last time and boarded the entire passage shut. They told me I was never allowed near it again. He ended with 5 words that lingered long after the screen went dark. Believe me, I never did. The family moved out shortly after. The photos were scrubbed from the internet, the account was deleted, and the Millers were never heard from again. But the question remains, and it's one that might keep you up tonight. Have you ever heard a sound in your house you couldn't explain? A creak in the walls? A door slightly open that you swore you closed? What if you're not as alone as you think? What would you do if you found something like this in your home? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe. I promise you. The next story is even more unsettling.